In this course, we will be using this platform called VizHub. VizHub gives you an in-browser IDE for editing code. And you don't have to use VizHub to follow along. You could use your local development environment with VS Code and Node.js and Git and all that stuff. But the advantage of starting in VizHub is that you can just get started coding right away without any additional setup. All you need to do is log in with your GitHub account, and then you can click on this Create Visualization button to see this listing of visualization templates. And if you scroll down here, you can see that there are quite a lot of examples from my previous courses. I've done this course many times, and this is the latest sort of reincarnation of this course. The template that we will start with here is Hello HTML, a very basic HTML page that sort of jumpstarts everything for us. For folks who are new to web development, let me just go over what's here first before we start making any changes. In VizHub, you can click Open Editor to see this editor. And there is this Edit with AI feature that we'll be using heavily for this version of the course. I'm really excited about it. But first, let's just take a look at these files to see what's there. First of all, we have index.html. This is a pretty minimal HTML page. And HTML, by the way, stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's the language used to define every single web page, every single web application. And here's the overall structure of an HTML page. It starts with doctype HTML, which tells the browser to use HTML5, the latest and greatest version of HTML. And then there's this outer HTML element, which is defined with a opening tag and a closing tag. And within that, there's the head, and then there's the body. The head defines things that are not visible on the page, but have some sort of effect. For example, the title is the title that shows in the browser tab if you were to open this page. And then here we have a link tag, which pulls in another file, styles.css. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. This is a whole other language that we use for styling the elements on the page. And then in the body, this is the stuff that is visible on the page. For example, a div. A div element is, I think it stands for divider element. It's just kind of a generic container element. This is the div that contains the text hello HTML. And it says here class equals message. And this is a totally arbitrary class name, which is just a hook for the CSS so that we can select it with CSS selectors and style it to make the font bigger. Finally, we have this script tag, which says src, which stands for source equals index.js. It also has type equals module, which enables modern JavaScript features, such as ECMAScript modules or ES6 modules with the import syntax, which is critical for refactoring one file to be many smaller files. What's cool about this is that it lets you author modular code without depending on any build tools. Now let's look at some of those other files. There's the styles.css. All that does is it selects the div that has a class of message with the dot, which says, select the class called this. And then in this block, it sets a couple style properties, namely the font size to make it bigger, and then the text align to put it in the middle. And in VizHub, if you make a change, for example, change 12 to 2, and then click on this button here, or hit Control S or Shift Enter, that will rerun the code, and you can see the results from your change. So I'll put it back to the way it was. Now let's take a look at index.js. This is just doing console.log hello world, so it's not having any visual impact at all. In order to see the output from this, we have to open the developer tools. And if you're new to web development, the developer tools are critical. You're going to be using them all the time. And the way to get to that in Chrome or Chromium, which I'm using here, which is the open source version of Chrome, you can click on these three dots and then go down here to More Tools and then Developer Tools. And I would recommend learning this keyboard shortcut because you'll have to open the dev tools all the time. And at first, it appears over here on this side. I don't quite like that personally, so I like to put it down here by clicking on that little drawer. And then I like adjusting the size of this with Control plus and Control minus, so the text is bigger. And it's got this weird setup with the console visible and the network tab, but I like to just go to console here, and this is where we can see our output. Hello world. Console.log is my personal go-to choice for debugging. So if there's something going on in the code and we want to figure something out, we can console.log the value of a variable or whatever. Okay, that's the hello HTML starting point. This gets us started with HTML, JavaScript, and CSS.